My dick, of course. Hardcore vanilla cream. McCollin's, I think, is the vanilla cream. I had Stanwell vanilla in it, and then I changed it over to vanilla cream, just because I'm keeping vanilla in that particular jar. It's that country wine glass. So the question was, what did you want to be when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up? Well, like all little girls, I wanted to be a princess and a queen. I didn't need a kingdom or a king. I just wanted to be a princess and then, you know, grow into a queen. And I did that. All of us girls was given the opportunity to become princesses by my dad. And he promoted our fantasies. My mom did too, you know, but my dad is the one that would go out there and hide things in little holes in the ground and say that they were troll treasure troves and stuff like that. So my dad was, and that's a good thing for a daddy to do. It's good for a daddy to sit down and my bowl's getting a little warm because I'm about done with it. It's good for a dad to sit down and have a tea party with a little girl, because I can guarantee you that's the things that they remember. That'd be the memory for any little girl, is the time that daddy spent with them. But as I was older, there was we were in the space program. I remember, I'm old, and you guys have no idea of the technology that has changed in my lifetime. So I wanted to be an astronaut. We were entering into the space program, and the astronauts were coming on, and there was a woman by the name of Wally, Capt Wally. And if you don't know who she is, then I advise you all to Google her, because she was one of the most important women in my opinion, that has been grossly overlooked. She was on the center cover of Time or Look. I can't remember which it was, maybe even Life back then. But I had taken her picture off the magazine and actually glued it to my wall where I could see it from my bed and my desk. Of course, I got in trouble for it, but then we went and had to get another one. Had to go buy another magazine, and I had to put it in a picture frame and had it for a long time. And that's one of those things that kind of has disappeared in the travels and in the fire. I don't have that anymore, which is kind of a shame, because it was a neat, nice picture. Captain Wally, thing is I idolized her all through my life, and I had an antique store downtown here in Leavenworth, and the woman that owned the building, her name was Renee Adams. Well, she lived above the shop, a really nice apartment, because the lofts downtown are phenomenal. I know I did a video on one, so I'm sure you've seen some of them. But Renee's girlfriend had company coming in, and lo and behold, a Bronco pulls up, and these two women get out, two older women. One had white hair, just snow white hair, and when I looked at her, I knew who she was. And I go out, Captain Wally. Well, you know, here is a 60-year-old woman out there, you know, yelling in the street, Captain Wally. Well, the woman was nice enough to talk to me for a little while, and she left me, she sent me photographs that she had signed and stuff like that, and I'll look it up and maybe show you guys. But I was so amazed that she looked good. Oh gosh, she looked so good, and she, you know, she was quite a bit older than me. She was probably in her 80s. Oh, I doubt if she's that old, but man, she was the woman I wanted to be. I wanted to be Captain Wally, and so I actually got to meet my idol. I've gotten to meet a couple of my idols. I got to meet her, just a fluke meeting. You know, what's the chances of you renting from a woman whose girlfriend knows your idol? You know, that's how networking works, I guess. But I also got to meet Isaac Asimov. It was a Star Trek not comic, it was Star Trek, and I got to meet him, and we were talking about many years ago, because I was still very young. Another guy you need to look up. He was the person I read about math, history, he could do things with words that few people could do. He knew, in order to write those space stories, he knew this. He had books on astronomy. His mathematic books are just the ones that, like I say, I pored over his books. I had tons of his books. He even had dirty limericks. I mean, the man was just astonishing. And when I finally met him, and by the time I did meet him, he had fuzzy hair and was young still too, but I was much younger. And I guess I was in my 20s probably. But when I met him, all I could do was stutter. You know, I couldn't get a word out. I kept trying, and he just patted me on the shoulder and signed my little book and sent me on my way. But it's very odd when you meet your, oh gosh, that was one of those really neat nights in my life, was to meet him and to meet her. So that's what I wanted to be when I was young, is I wanted to be an astronaut. But along with being an astronaut, you know, before I wanted to be an astronaut, I wanted to be my aunt worked for South Bell in Kentucky. She was an operator. And she took me to work one day with her. She worked at a switchboard, and I'm only maybe 7 or 8. Yeah. I wasn't 10 yet. She worked at a switchboard, and honest to gosh, back in those days, she had this big heavy headset. It was really one of those with the wires and the thing, and it was just so neat to, so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a telephone operator, which was more likely to happen than me being an astronaut, but I never wanted to be Susie Homemaker. Still not. Still don't want to be Susie Homemaker. I keep waiting for the house cleaning fairy to come, but they won't come unless you pay them. But that was the question. Oh, I did tell you this was my harcourt. You know, just a nice harcourt. This is Harry. Tom, Dick, and Harry. This is Harry of the Harry group. And I was smoking some McClellan vanilla cream in there. I wanted to be never an athletic person. I'm okay, I just wasn't a great athletic person. And so I knew I would never get there through NASA. But I'd hoped I could have been a civilian going. It's odd how dreams die too, you know. All of our, once as a child, as we grow up, they kind of die a rather peaceful death for the most part. We outgrow them, or we realize that they are unattainable, or do a little bit in as far as flying and stuff like that's concerned. I'm emptying out my pipe on the ground. That's one of the nice things about my house. The wind will come through here and just blow us away, but I like my outside. I like sitting around on my deck or on my front porch. And that's, I think, my quiet time and where I like was. In the 70s, there was the push for women equality. We've taken a lot of steps backwards, but for the most part, there was this push on for any time the government awarded a contract, the government said so many had to be minorities. And so I got to go to Alaska because there was a push for that contract had to have women with the contract also. So 3 women and 13 men lived in a Quonset hut in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. And all I did was I sat behind the pilot in a little jump chair. You know, you folded it down from the front seat. And I just checked off stuff as they were pushing out the dynamite. I made sure that the dynamite didn't get dropped at the same place that the blasting caps did. And that was kind of neat because so it was kind of neat to do that summer. I came back and didn't have to pay for my junior and senior year in college, because that was what the the trade-off was I got to, if I would work for them for 3 months, they paid my junior and senior year in college. And I always urge anybody who's going to college to go ahead and take accounting as their secondary, because the world can fall, but you're still going to have an accountant to account for it. So I've always been very steady work. You know, I was always kind of responsible. I fulfilled in a certain way. I couldn't become an astronaut, but I could get on a plane and I could take a parachute jump. And I won't ever do that again either. So we get on the plane. This is, I'm sorry, this VR is always, all of my videos take too long. I'm sorry, because I get off subject. But got up on a plane. There was a bunch of us that got on to take our, I'd already done a jump line. So back then, they didn't do the tandem jumping. Back then, there again, it has to do with the technology. We jumped from that plane on a ripcord. I mean, when you got so far away from the plane, it automatically ripped your parachute. And talk about scared. I was scared. I peed on myself all the way down. And all the way down, I kept praying, you know, God, if you get me out of this, I will never do anything stupid like this again. I swear, if you let me live through this. And you only had time for 700 or 800 prayers as you're going down. It's pretty quick, you know. But I was lucky enough I lived through it. And then, truthfully, I'd like to say I never did anything stupid again. But, you know, usually I didn't know it was stupid until after I did it. So I did a lot of other dangerous, silly things, but that's because I didn't know it until afterwards how bad that was. But so that's who I wanted to be when I was going to grow up. I wanted to be a princess, and I was. And then I wanted to be an astronaut, and I didn't get to be an astronaut, but I got to meet my hero astronaut. And then I wanted to be a teacher, and I found out I didn't want to be a teacher. Oh, even better than that, there's Xavier, which is a nun preparatory school. And so I actually thought I wanted to be a nun for a few years. Of course, the Mother Superior, she said it's a false calling and get your ass out of here. No, she didn't. What she said was it was a false calling, and that I thought I wanted to be a nun because it seemed like it was kind of a romantic notion. I was Catholic, and so I chose to become a Catholic with my dad. So happy, happy, joy, joy, you know I'm watching you.